Mark Rogers TV, always talking college football. And if you love the game, you've got to check out and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Mark Rogers TV. One of our yearly off-season projects is to rate and rank all the schedules in the Power Five, plus the major independents. And we're finally getting around to it once again this off-season. So before we hop to it, we're going to run down how we rank these schedules. So we take all the 68 schedules, and then we divide them into conferences and divisions. So think about it. It's most easy to compare schedules within a particular division. So we put these schedules into silos because everybody plays the same division schedule. So for example, in the SEC, if we take the SEC Eastern Division and we take all those teams in the Eastern Division, well, they all play the same 6 games. So there's 7 teams in the division, so they all play 6 like games, so we can throw them out. And then we only have to compare the other 6 games. And then they all play 2 games against the other division, the SEC Western Division, and many of those games are the same, so we can throw out those 1 or 2 games as well, and we narrow it down, and then we've got less games to compare. We also rank the conferences and rank the divisions, so we start by listing those divisions and those conferences in order. And then once we rank the conferences and the divisions, then we can stack them up against each other first and foremost. And if you think about it, the Big 12 is by far the easiest to rank because everybody plays each other. So whether you're Kansas or Kansas State or Oklahoma State, you play 9 of 12 games exactly the same. So only the non-conference games are different. Therefore, it is easy to rank the Big 12 in particular because everybody plays the same exact schedule. In the SEC, it is the toughest of the conferences, along with the ACC, to rank within the conference because they only play 8 out of the other 13 teams, 14 teams in the ACC and the SEC. So 13 other teams to play, but you only play 8 of the 13. Therefore, there's the most schedule variation in the ACC and also in the SEC. And so again, in the Big 12, the only thing to consider that makes the schedule difference within the conference, think about this. Oklahoma and Kansas play the exact same schedule in the Big 12, but Kansas is Kansas and Oklahoma's Oklahoma. 9-0 last year in the Big 12 for OU. KU went 1-8. Therefore, Kansas doesn't get to play itself, and Oklahoma doesn't have to play itself. Therefore, you're replacing Kansas and Oklahoma's schedule, and Oklahoma takes on Kansas. And if you look at the Football Power Index, according to ESPN, Oklahoma's the number 3 team in the country. Kansas is 103. It's a big difference, but it's just the one difference out of 9 games in the Big 12. So I looked at the conferences, the divisions. I made those comparisons. Who you play in the other division is a huge factor in this. So, for example, in the SEC, Alabama may play, and I'm not saying that they do, but they play their one common opponent in Tennessee. Then they may play, let's say, Florida. While somebody else in the SEC Western Division, i.e. Mississippi State, their common opponent each and every year is Kentucky out of the Eastern Division, and then let's say that it's a year that they play Vanderbilt. So there's a huge difference between playing Florida and Georgia out of the SEC Eastern Division and playing Kentucky and Vanderbilt. For example, I look at the home road situation. So even though not all FCS schools are created equal, and the lower portion of the group of 5 teams are somewhat similar, they're basically, if you're a decent Power 5 team, you're going to defeat those teams anyway. So that doesn't much matter. I'm looking at the better non-conference games in particular. Also looked at the roughest stretch that a team has to face. Some teams have to play a very difficult schedule, but the games are pretty well spaced out in regards to the toughest games on the slate. And then also, I am very, very impressed this year for the first time in forever that almost everybody in the country is playing 2 Power 5 teams out of their 3 to 4 non-conference games. It's been a stretch to get everybody to play Baylor. 1 Power Five team, but with the College Football Playoff Committee and the playoff system in place and the emphasis in playing the Power Five schedule out of conference, that has been a huge improvement in this process. So we are going to start on our next video running through number 68 all the way down to number 1 in the toughest schedule in college football. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Mark Rogers TV. Listen to the full conversations with some of the top contributors across the country. The audio version at Podbean and iTunes. Search Mark Rogers TV.